Powered by Riverside.
Welcome back to another episode of In-Laws and Out of Bounds. I am your host, Hagen. Sitting across from me is Emilio, and we are excited to be back, folks. We appreciate you coming in. We have a rather large episode today. A lot of college football that we're going to get to here. We've got championship weekend. We have the second to last college football playoff rankings out, and they are very controversial. Let me tell you about it. We've been hearing a lot about it from folks that have listened to the previous episode and folks that just got a little bit of snippets on social media. It's been a week, or I guess a couple days. It hadn't even been a week. So we've got that. We'll look at the rankings, give our thoughts and opinions. We'll preview the championship games, and then we'll get over into the NFL. They've kind of got their own little rivalry week going on this weekend. If you look at it, there's a lot of divisional games going on, and then some out-of-division, feuds that have been happening in the past, like Dallas and Detroit, just for an example. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about some college football coaching changes as well. Emilio, do you have anything?
No, I'm ready to stump all the noise out here. It's been getting loud.
There is a lot of noise. Before we get into it, guys, we always appreciate you supporting us, following us. Please make sure you check out any of our socials. We've got Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Give us a rating here on Spotify. We've got YouTube as well. Go subscribe there. Leave us a like, a comment, anything like that. We greatly appreciate all of your support. It just helps us grow the show, and that's what we're hoping to do. Also, thank you to our sponsors, Brewster Bird Hunts. They are not only the best bird hunt destination in South Texas, they are the best in the state of Texas, period. If you want to go somewhere and limit out every time, make sure that you are doing it with Brewster Bird Hunts. They've got the best guides, the best dogs, the best birds around. So if you're looking to get in touch with the wild, give them a shout. Doesn't matter if you're one hunter or 100, they'll take care of you. Make sure you give them a shout. Facebook, Instagram, brewsterbirdhunts.com. We appreciate them. So let's get into it. All right, college football playoff rankings, they're out. They're fresh off the press, and they are controversial. Let's just go 25-1 real quick. We'll talk about some of the flip-flops, and we'll get through there. So coming in at number 25 for the first time ever in the rankings, you've got the James Madison Bulldogs. 24, another first comer for the first time ever. You've got North Texas, Mean Green. 23, you've got the Iowa Hawkeyes. 22, Georgia Tech. 21, Houston. 20 is Tulane. 19 is Michigan. 18 is Arizona. 17 is Virginia. 16 is USC. 15, Utah. 14, Vandy. 13 is Texas. 12, Miami. 11, BYU. 10, Notre Dame. 9, Alabama. 8, Oklahoma, 7, Texas A&M, 6, Ole Miss, 5, Oregon, 4, Texas Tech, 3, Georgia, 2, Indiana, and number 1, The Ohio State University. Looking at this, if you look at the quick hits, Bama and Notre Dame switched. They swapped just 9 and 10. That's something that I think both of us have thought for a long time, that Bama should probably be in front of Notre Dame. If you just look at their overall wins that they've been able to accomplish versus the losses that they've had. Notre Dame has had quality losses, with both of those losses coming from number 7 and 12 respectively right here, right? Alabama did suffer the loss to Florida State, which it was their 6-6 team this year, and then they lost to Oklahoma. So but just the competition that Alabama has played throughout the whole season, when you look at the resume from front to back, Bama has been a more impressive team. And I think if you were to put those two teams, not that this is a power ranking that we'll get, that we're looking at, but if you were to put those two teams against each other at one point, you would probably favor Bama in that instance, right? So looking at that. Texas did jump up to number 13, and then you have Miami still sitting there at that number 12. They get that much closer to Notre Dame, which we'll get into that Notre Dame Miami thing here in a little bit. But what are your initial thoughts here, Emilio?
My initial thoughts is I'm not even sure that the committee looked at Alabama's resume and determined that it looked better than Notre Dame's. I think they found a way to keep Alabama in the playoff, whether they lose this weekend or not. I think that was the reason for the flip.
Yep.
You know, if you have them in at 9, if they lose, you slide them back one spot, they're still in. And if they win, then they just slide up and they're in. So I think that is pretty interesting. And then, I mean, I've seen a lot of arguments about, you know, Miami needing to be up instead of Notre Dame because of the head-to-head, and it makes a lot of sense. We've gone back and forth about it, and really, I'm surprised that Miami didn't move at all after beating the brakes off of Pitt. Now, granted, Pitt is Pitt. Notre Dame beat Pitt. Miami beat Pitt. When you look at their common opponents, they have very similar scores, and where they beat the brakes off of the same teams. And then you have a head-to-head where Miami beats Notre Dame. And the only difference really between the two resumes is Miami losing to Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And Notre Dame's loss is coming to Miami and Texas A&M. So from that perspective, I get it, but I am surprised, I guess, by the whole shakeout of it. Quite honestly, though, I think that I was also a little bit surprised by Texas A&M sliding down below Ole Miss. That one caught me by surprise a little bit. I figured they were going to take Lane Kiffin leaving a little bit more seriously, but I guess because they were able to retain their play caller for the rest of the playoffs, maybe they're not seeing it as a significant of an impact is what I'm thinking it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you retained one play caller, not your main reliable source for that play caller. So to me, it's still a pretty big impact to not have Lane and the majority of your offensive staff. And I didn't think A&M's loss was quite that bad that they needed a slide that far down. But nonetheless, I mean, that's probably not going to change after this week unless, you know, maybe Georgia loses and A&M might slide up one spot, but I doubt it. So other than that, nothing really stood out to me too crazy other than the James Madison Dukes finally making their way into the top 25.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at both of these here, you can say, okay, A&M and Ole Miss right there. Ole Miss, if what everybody's argued here recently has been better losses versus the two, right? If you want to say, hey, we have a better loss, Ole Miss probably has a better loss than Texas A&M does because they lost to Georgia. Georgia's a much better team than Texas is. I mean, they proved that, right? It was a 35-10 thing. That's not even just me just saying what it is. That was proven on the field. So we're just going by what was given to us from a true test, right? So just looking at those two, you can't really get upset there. I do think that if you look at that, that's really interesting. If you say, hey, what's the difference in the 6th and 7th seed? Both of them are going to get home playoff games in the first round. But if you look at the difference of it, number 6 seed is going to play a Group of 5 conference champion, more than likely if BYU Duke was to win the ACC championship, right? Essentially, what would be that because you were looking at that 6 and 11 seed, or you're going to be playing an ACC team, essentially. So you're looking at Group of 5 in Tulane or North Texas or Virginia is really what you're looking at there. And then number 7, right now, the way it's slotted, you're playing Notre Dame. So
Yeah.
that's a big difference in the two if you were to look at those two things. So basically right now, if you looked at those what those odds would be, that A&M Notre Dame game would be essentially a toss-up, right? It'd be a pick-me game. But if you were to look at what a North Texas versus at Ole Miss would be, that'd be a 13-point favorite in Ole Miss's favor. And if it was Tulane at Ole Miss, it would be an 18-point favorite. Even Virginia at Ole Miss is a 13.5 favorite on Ole Miss's part. So That's huge, right? Notre Dame, Texas A&M is a pick me game. That they're saying that's straight even, which it was the first matchup.
Right.
You don't know which one it is. So really interesting there of how much that can switch up and just be a huge difference in the two factors there. If you look at that, getting Bama in front of Notre Dame, I do agree in the fact that you say, hey, we want to put more emphasis on if Bama were to lose, that it's harder for them to fall out. I don't think that even if Bama loses, they fall out because they've said it time and time again that they're not going to treat these conference championship loss or game losses as a true regular season loss, right? You can
Right.
argue whether that's right or wrong because you're going to be sitting at the same crossroads essentially as what Texas fans are going to be talking about. Hey, we're a 3-loss team as well. And then you get into the schematics of who has the better resume at that point, right? And that's going to be argued and I'm sure looked at that point. What it really does interesting is it really gets you into this, and I think is Notre Dame being right there. Say if Duke is able to pull out the win, right, and Miami needs to be the biggest Blue Devil fans this weekend that over
Yeah.
anybody over the whole fan base, right? Because if that happens, there will be no representation of the ACC in the college football playoffs, and that's not what this playoff was created to do, right? It's
Right.
not so that a Power Four conference gets left out, and then you get two Group of Five conferences into the playoff. That's just not what it's meant to do. So that gives the committee an out there to say, okay, hey, we're looking at these two teams, and if you do it like you just dot A and dot B, and you look at their resume, you look at what they've gone down if you're looking at what Notre Dame has on a strength of schedule basis and what Miami has on a strength of schedule basis, they're essentially the same, right? They're both 10-2. The best win for Notre Dame is versus number 17 USC, and then for Miami, it's number 9 Notre Dame, right? If you look at their football power index, Notre Dame is 3 and Miami 7. Their strength of schedule, Notre Dame is the 42nd, Miami's the 44th, and then their strength of ranking, it's 13th for Notre Dame and 14th for Miami. So if you're looking at these two dots and you don't know who it is, they're nameless teams, you say, what can I have to separate these two? And it's a head-to-head, right?
Right.
While the Notre Dame side is clawing at every single fact that they can get on a paper, Miami can say, hey, I've got 4 hours of tape that you can watch, right?
Yeah.
You watch, I guess, the full game on TV. I've got 4 hours of tape that you can watch and you can see who wins at the end of the game, right? So in that instance, you have to let Miami in. And I think that if it comes down to, hey, we're not going to have an ACC team representing in the playoffs, that gives them the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, we're going to honor the head-to-head ranking, and Notre Dame's going to be out. And I think that's why Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman said today that he was feeling a little uneasy about the situation that they're in, right? Come sliding back a spot and looking at where they are. And it has to matter at some point when you have two teams that are exactly even, they have the same record, that head-to-head has to come into play and do it. Now, if Virginia comes in and they win, whether it's right or wrong that you look at it, Miami, in my opinion, should be in over Notre Dame at this instance because of the head-to-head. But it's still probably not going to work out that way, right? There are some TV rankings that go involved in this. They're not going to say that matters, but I do think it matters. At some point, somebody's in the ear saying, hey, we have to have these teams in there. That helps a lot of programs out. It gives us a lot of talking points, right? Easier to talk about Notre Dame and Jeremiah Love and CJ Carr versus Carson Beck and whoever else Miami has on the ground, right? I mean, and you just look at all the shows around. But looking at those two, I think that's why they did it, right?
Yeah.
And if you go to Bama too, say Bama wins this weekend. If Bama wins, they're going to be in. They're going to move all the way into a top 4 seed, right? A lot of people are going to argue that they shouldn't, but that SEC champion is going to get a top 4 seed. Now, where that lands, it's not going to be number 1. Obviously, it's going to be the Big Ten champion winner. They're going to stay number 1. Shoot, even if either one of them loses and it's a super close game, you may not see either of those teams fall out of the second place seed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they may stay right there. But Bama, they'll get 3 or 4 in that instance. They're going to get up there, and rightfully so. The SEC championship game and the Big Ten championship game are the biggest things outside of the playoff, right?
Right.
We know that the SEC and the Big Ten are heading above all the other conferences as it is. So if you look at that, Bama has a real shot here to get into that. And depending how that game goes against Georgia, Georgia has every chance that they can beat them, but Bama did beat Georgia early in the season, so you never know what's going to happen there, right? Tech is sitting nice right there at number 4. They play BYU. If BYU upsets Tech somehow, this is going to be, what do you do then, right? Notre Dame's really looking like they're on the outs at that point, because you're not going to drop a number 4 team all the way out of the playoffs.
Right.
But if BYU loses, they're out, right? They
Yeah.
don't have a shot. They're going to get that held against them.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking if BYU loses by a last-second field goal, they deserve to be there just as much as Notre Dame.
Yeah. If you look at their strength of record, it's 6th in the nation, and then they have the 35th ranked strength of schedule as well. So it's not like they're 100 and something way in the back of the pack, right? It's still you're still somewhat of a mid-level respectable team, and they have numerous ranked wins against current top 25 teams, right? If you look at BYU, they have 2 wins against top 25 teams that are currently ranked, which is not a bad deal. Now, their only loss is to Tech in Lubbock, the number 4 team in the nation. They didn't put a good show on then. They have had some games. You have to look at the full, body of work. They had close games against Colorado. They had a close game against Utah, but Utah's still ranked number 15th. They've had to struggle to get through some of those games, but they've been resilient, and they have blown some teams out at the same time. So that's an interesting one there for me. If you go back to the pack, Texas and Vanderbilt are out. There's no path forward for them at this point. They needed a lot of help last week with some people losing, like in Oklahoma, like in Alabama, Ole Miss, right? They needed a lot of those chips to fall to get into consideration. But them being 13 and 14, there's no way that they jump, a lot of these idle teams that are sitting here. Now, he did come out and say, the committee chairman did come out and say, hey, there can be some movement with these idle teams. He said there could. He didn't say there will be. So there's a lot to see there. I think really what you're looking at here is the only team that can move out that's idle right now is Notre Dame. And where do they make that way for? If BYU does beat Tech, there's going to be a lot here that you have to look at. Because if where does Tech fall in that scenario? They'll be a 2-loss team, but they'll move somewhere, they'll move behind Ole Miss and behind A&M more than likely. So you're looking anywhere from 8 to 10. And then you say, okay, what happens at that ACC championship game? Are we really going to see North Texas or Tulane or James Madison, these 2 teams in there? I mean, I still stand on the pack that we shouldn't let these 2 teams, these G5 teams in here. They shouldn't get auto bids because we're not truly putting our best 12 teams in here. It goes back to the Texas argument, and I'm not going to get on a rant here because I'm honestly tired of talking about this, and I'm sure you are as well. But we're not saying that Texas is not one of the best 12 teams in the country, right? They may actually be one of the best 12 teams in the country. That's not the argument that we are making. It's not a power ranking that we're putting in the playoffs. It is a true test of schedule here and a full resume, right? Yes, Texas played Ohio State at the beginning of the year, and they gave them the best game of the season. That's fine. They still lost to an unranked Florida, and they got dominated by Georgia, and they had really close wins against Kentucky and Mississippi State and UTEP, if you really want to throw it in there. They did struggle against UTEP a little bit. They only won 27-10 there. So those are all really tough things that you have to look at and say, okay, objectively, with what the committee gives us and what these playoffs are, Texas does not qualify as a playoff team, right? And that's not, I'm not trying to be biased in a way just because they beat A&M or anything like that. That's just truly saying, okay, here's the resume. They shouldn't jump in front of anybody, regardless of who they beat. I know they beat 3 top 10 teams. Vandy was never a team in my mind. And if I've ever for some reason said, hey, Vandy's had a chance, and I didn't really mean it, but Vandy's never truly been a team that said, hey, they can actually compete for national championship. I don't know if you feel any different, Emilio, but I don't feel like that was ever something that we or anybody truly ever believed, right?
I think this whole season we were thinking that this was an opportunity for Vandy to start making a case and getting recruits so that maybe at some point in the future they could
Yep.
be a legitimate contender. But for this immediate season, I mean, no.
Yeah.
Not you don't just wake up one year and you're suddenly a contender after not being a contender for 60 plus years.
I don't know. You better watch out. Tech did it to the tune of like $25 million. So, I mean, I'm not going to
Skip Bayless is going to donate to Vandy. I don't see that happening.
don't skip across that fact because there's been a lot of that there. Tech should be competitive because they do have one of the most expensive rosters. And you know what? They've got one of the most expensive rosters, and they've dominated all season in tune of this just because I brought up Tech. They've dominated all season other than when they played Arizona State in a revenge game with a backup quarterback, right? And they still had a chance to come back, and they almost pulled that game off. So Tech has done their part in convincing people, hey, maybe we do play in the third best conference in the nation, but they've dominated that third best conference for sure, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, but those are the big things there. If you really want to look at it here, if we could get into schematics, just like I talked about. Hey, Texas could be definitely one of the. If you looked at them and said, hey, who's going to give a better game, Texas or BYU against Ohio State? I would probably pick Texas, and I would probably say, they could, challenge Ohio State better than BYU. Do I think Texas plays Ohio State as close as they did week one? No. But that's besides the point. I understand that they are probably a more talented and a better team than BYU. But as a resume sits, BYU is still an 11-1 team as far as that goes. It goes the same for Notre Dame. If you were to look at Notre Dame in Miami and say, hey, who would you pick today? It doesn't matter who I would pick today or who anybody else would pick today because they played at one point. And it's the same thing that we go back on everything. From what we remember, there is not a preseason in college football. It's just a regular season, and that all holds just as much value as it does later in the season, right? So that's what we have to look at, and that's just the way it is. And it's just the way the committee has it. There's a lot of things that they can improve on here, right? If you take these auto bids out, this can look a lot different, but you're still giving this to a team of 12 human beings that are going to make mistakes no matter what. Right. And they're going to have their own biases and their own opinions. And then it's how, that's just the way it is. You're a human. You're going to make errors. So no matter what, I don't think it becomes perfect. You have to look at it as a whole. Is getting this to 16 teams, is that the answer? At that point, then you really don't. How far do we have to go till it's like, oh, well, this person didn't make it in, and anybody can make it in and make the dance, and something can happen. If you're really eyeing for one of those spots, does it matter at that point? Do you really have a chance to compete for a national championship? Like, I get it, it's college football and anything can happen, but I mean, really? Like, if you couldn't do it consistently throughout the regular season, what makes you think you can do it on a 4 or 5, 6 games stretch in the playoffs? Right?
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, really, for those folks that like to say that it's just like the NCAA March Madness tournament, it's not.
yeah.
When's the last time one of those Cinderella teams actually won the national championship? It was in the 1980s with North Carolina State, who quite honestly went on quite a tear.
Yep.
And you're not going to find that in a James Madison or a Tulane. You're not going to until maybe when this revenue sharing comes out and everybody's playing on a level playing field. I could see it in 10 plus years, maybe those schools being a little bit better. But at the end of the day, you're not going to get past these bigger brands. You're just not. They're more athletic, and this isn't basketball. You have to be able to move people around. And if you don't have the size and the strength and the attraction to get those guys, you're not going to be really that competitive. It's a great story. It's fun. It keeps everybody excited, to tune in and to keep trying to get better recruits. But at no point in time are we going to be saying James Madison's going to win the national championship.
No.
That's just the facts.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to make it more exciting and make some more money and keep a little bit more people happy, let's just turn those two group of five spots or those two automatic bids into a play-in game with, like, imagine a play-in game between Texas and James Madison and Vandy and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I'd tune in for that. You play in for those last two spots the
Yeah.
week of the Army Navy game. Great.
Yeah.
That's the only thing on. You have a play-in game, and those are the last two spots you're in.
Yeah. Like it just becomes to the same fact of like, if you're having Ivy for those spots, can you really compete for a national championship? In my head, I get it. I mean, that makes for great TV, and you're filling some spots in the year, and you're adding extra football games. But you know, I don't know. I mean, it's an idea for sure. I agree. That's a way to get to 16 teams without adding a big, completely redoing the bracket essentially, right? Because you're saying, hey, okay, these are the spots, these are the seeds that you're eyeing for, and you can play before, and whatever, right? So, no, I get it. I mean, I don't think that's a terrible idea. But I think at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, you're already struggling to get in here at this point. Why should you really be in here? I guess is what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the hard fact that everybody's going to have to accept if you're in that 12, 13, 14 spot that's not going to get an automatic bid is that, it's the course of a season for a reason. It's
yeah,
not what have you done for me lately? While it's easy to get caught up in that, and it's easy to say that you're one of the 12 best teams now. That's great, but it's over the course of a season. And the
yeah.
fact of the matter is a lot of these teams took care of business for 14 weeks, not just 6. So, I mean, it is what it is.
There's could be holes poked in every single argument, and everybody has a valid point for the most part when you look at this from an objective standpoint, right? And taking biases out of it and doing those things. And it's hard to do it sometimes. Believe me, I understand. I struggle with it quite often, but you can't just say, hey, we've played the best ball in the past 2 weeks, we deserve to be in. That's just not how it works. So there's been a lot of teams that have done well. There's been teams that have stumbled, but they've shown, hey, we're resilient and we're a program. Now, there is the argument of like a cool kids versus, not cool kids club of certain people getting in. I see that, Like I said, it comes back to there are, in my opinion, I think there's some TV executives behind here trying to pull some strings a little bit, paying off some committee members, but, we'll see. So, but if we were to look at right now what the bracket looks like, if you in the first round, you would have Tulane traveling into Oregon. You'd have Alabama going to Oklahoma for a rematch there. Virginia, they would be the predicted ACC champion right now. They'd be going to Oxford to take on Ole Miss, and then you'd have Notre Dame going to A&M. If like we were talking about with those rankings there, this is FanDuel put this out. If just as far as like, hey, these is what the potential ones look like right now. So you would have Alabama favored by 1.5 at Oklahoma at this point. The Notre Dame Texas A&M game again, that's a pick'em game. If you said, hey, James Madison, is that who we had? I think it was Tulane that I said. Tulane versus Oregon at this point at Oregon, it would be a 24.5-point favorite in Oregon's favorite. Right, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I'd probably pick Oregon to cover in that game. Especially, with the Tulane's coaches moving on now. You got North Texas coach moving on. There's a lot of weird things happening there. Virginia at Ole Miss, again, is 13.5 points. If you look at North Texas at Ole Miss, it's 13 points, and then Tulane at Ole Miss is 18 points. So there's a lot there, a lot of big lines. It doesn't necessarily equal to an exciting, first college football round here. You're going to have some games that you're going to want to tune out, and then a few that you'd want to tune in. Obviously, the biggest one there would be Notre Dame and Texas A&M. The Alabama-Oklahoma one would be good as well, but it still goes back to the fact, can Oklahoma recreate that magic since they can't, score on offense right now? They've had some really hard times doing that. What does that team look like? Maybe they get a little better as far as just healthy in that aspect, but it'd be interesting to see. That'd be a good matchup there So, but yeah, that'd be a good one. So, you got anything else on these college football playoffs? I could rant, I really could, but I mean, this is an important week. A lot's going to change. Well, I don't think a ton will change. If BYU wins, we're going to have some chaos there. If Duke wins, we're going to have some chaos there as well. That's going to be really interesting because then, there's no chance of Duke making it whatsoever into the playoffs. BYU winning, who gets dropped out? No, they won't. They have to get ranked into the top 25. They got to be ranked. If James Madison and so North Texas or Tulane's going to win, so they're a lock for the playoffs, right? Because they're locked in. One of them's going to win. One of them's going. If Duke were to win, James Madison would get in over that because they're already ranked right now. Duke is unranked.
I could see them not. I could see them saying, "Okay, Duke beat the number 17 team in the country. They must be."
They'd be 8-5 at that
the
point.
19th best team.
No, there's no way. They'd be 8-5. They would clear a way to figure out how to get Miami in there somehow at an at-large, which would make no sense whatsoever. I understand because they didn't win their conference championship. There were some weird things that happened there. If you really get into the semantics of it and you're like, hey, Miami's in here, but our league champion isn't. Well, we need representation for this and blah, blah, blah. They should be in because Notre Dame's up there. I mean, there's so much there. I get it. You can argue it 10 different ways. And who knows who's right at this point, right? I mean, you got to, I guess, look at it when the final standings come out. But Miami should be in over Notre Dame. That's it, at an at-large, right? And then let Virginia win. I mean, they're only a 2.5, 3-point favorite at this point against Duke. So that's not very, I don't have a ton of faith in the Cavaliers whatsoever, but let them win, let them get in. Then there's no controversy there, right? And you've got Tulane or North Texas in and it's whatever. But you still look at BYU and Tech. If BYU loses, where does Tech fall out? That kicks Notre Dame out at this point. There's a lot of things there that are still going to, if my gut feeling right now is that Notre Dame's out, is my gut feeling.
You think so? Regardless of what happens in that Miami?
What happens? Yeah, I think Notre Dame's out. Just because I felt like they put them a little closer here to where they can be like, you know what, we came to our senses, the head-to-head. You are right, America. Here's Miami. But that doesn't mean I think that Miami's a better team than Notre Dame because I don't. But you got to honor that head-to-head when you're literally tied in almost every statistic and your record's the exact same. So, yeah, that's what you got to do. So, anyways, let's get over to some of these coaching carousels before we look at some of these preview games. Just to get y'all updated, Bob Chesney of James Madison, he was there for 2 seasons. He had a 20-4 record. He is going over to UCLA to become the head coach there. So, moving a stepping stone there, we'll see how that affects James Madison as they go into conference championship weekend. We talked about John Summerall going to Florida from Tulane. He was 2 seasons there. He had a 19-7 record. Eric Morris with North Texas, he agreed to go to Oklahoma State. He's going to be moving over from there. Jim Mora, after 4 seasons with the Yukon Huskies, finishing with a record of 27-23, is going to Colorado State. Colorado State got their guy. They're ready to roll. And then you got Brian Hartline. This was one of the bigger news. The Ohio State offensive coordinator has agreed to become the next South Florida head coach. So
I'm honestly a little bit surprised he didn't get a bigger job offer.
Me too.
South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stepping stone, right? You don't get one of those. Everybody's been hanging on for something to pop up. It's been super weird, right? You look at just like Penn State and Michigan State and all these other teams. They think that I don't know. I guess a lot of them thought like Lane Kiffin, like Penn State thought that Lane Kiffin was going to go there. Like at what point ever did you think Lane Kiffin was going to Penn State? I mean, I didn't even follow that closely, but it's like that doesn't fit whatsoever, right?
No.
I mean, it just
at this point, the biggest loser in this whole ordeal is Penn State. They were the first ones to cut their coach.
Yep.
And they still don't have one yet.
Yeah.
which is crazy to me. They have managed to royally screw this up. I don't know if you looked at any of the statistics today from signing day.
Yeah.
They had a lower recruiting class ranking than Montana State, which
Yeah.
is a Division II school.
They were 150 something ranked, right? And there's only
Mm-hmm.
136 FBS schools. So there's only
That's
136 D1 schools, and they were ranked 150th or around right there. So, oh yeah, that's terrible.
they're going to be in a pickle for a while.
Yes, they are. Yep. And James Franklin's going to gut that team. So I
Oh,
think
he's already
he's
started.
already started, right? So yeah,
Between him and Rich Rod, they aren't going to have a squad next year.
this is going to be worse than Jerry Sandusky.
Whoa,
I'm
whoa!
not talking about the actual act. I'm just talking about what came afterwards. That was what Sandusky used was terrible. That was poorly represented by me on that aspect. I apologize. Oh, jeez, Louise, man, I'm gonna go viral on that one. Oh, jeez. Oh gosh, but let's get into some of these games. Man, so the first one we've got the Sun Belt Championship. You've got Troy taking on number 25 James Madison. James Madison is a 23.5 point favorite here. I know nothing about Troy whatsoever. Um, Give me James Madison just because they seem like they've been rolling everybody. I have these two teams played this year, do you know?
I don't.
Okay.
Uh, what I do know is that the last time the Dukes had a big game that everything was riding on, they managed to shit the bed. So I think this is a redemption year for them. I see them winning this one and making their way into the playoff.
Yeah, just from the fact that I know nothing about Troy, give me James Madison. I guess it'll be interesting to see how this team's going to react with their coach. I'm not sure if he's actually coaching or not, but how they react to the news of him, taking a new job. I'm sure they're excited. It's not the same scenario as a Kiffin or one of these deals. It's still tough. It still sucks to see that your coach is signing elsewhere and talking with other places when you're in the middle of a potential playoff berth yourself, right? And doing those things. So that's tough. But yeah, give me James Madison. There's not much other reason not to. Going to the American Championship, you have number 24 North Texas taking on number 22 Lane here. They've got North Texas favored by 2.5 points. That's pretty interesting here. If you look at some key facts, North Texas they're averaging 510 yards per game. They're the number one overall offense in Division I football. They're doing 324 passing yards per game, which is second. 185 yards rushing per game, which is 40th, and then they're averaging 46.8 points per game, which is also first in the nation. On the flip side of the ball, they've got the 65th ranked defense, giving up 372 yards a game, 164 passing yards, which is 10th, 207 rushing yards per game, which is 129th. If they get in, that's going to be what kills them right there. And then they're giving up 24 points a game, which is 65th. On the other sideline with Tulane, they got the 40th ranked offense, averaging 416 yards per game, 248 yards passing, 167 yards rushing, and then 28 points per game scoring, which is 61st. On the defensive side, they're giving up 372 yards a game, which is 64th, passing 257, which is 121st, only 120 yards rushing, which is 31st, and then 22.8 points per game, which is 51st. So a lot of stuff there. The biggest thing that I think you can look at there is that it seems like Tulane has a middle of the road. It doesn't seem like it. Looks like Tulane has a middle of the road rushing offense, but that rush defense for North Texas is atrocious. I mean, they make the Cowboys look good at the beginning of the year in that aspect. I mean, that's tough. So, who you got?
I got the Mean Green.
Yeah.
Boy, I've seen them play a couple of times. They can light up a scoreboard. They don't worry about defense. They're just going to score more than you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I got an exciting wide alert.
uh-oh.
North Texas's quarterback, Drew.
Oh,
Mr. Meyer, Oscar Meyer Wiener, whatever you want to call him, absolute dog. There's rumors that he will be the first one on a bus to Oklahoma State with that head coach. Look out for him to be lighting it up next year as well. He is a certified dog. I saw him throw for like 610 yards in one game. He knows how to hit the deep ball. He's very accurate. He's working himself into an NFL contract. He just doesn't realize it. So I'm going with the mean green. I wouldn't be surprised if they score 50 and Tulane scores 45. So give me the mean green in a shootout.
I need to get the media button to where you say exciting white alert. It goes, "Brr, brr, brr, brr," something like that, where it makes them, make the screen pop up or something like that. North Texas is third in the FBS with a plus 14 turnover margin. That is super important when you look at games like this, especially in high scoring games. If that's what you're going to get into, typically a team that can protect the ball a little better is going to be what comes out on the other side. Tulane 77th in red zone defense, allowing opponents to score on 84% of their trips, and then North Texas ranks fourth in scoring on 94%. So North Texas is not a team that settles for field goals, especially in the red zone. North Texas has a bad time of possession, but that also means that they could just score a lot and they don't need the ball that long, right? Which it shows that they do because they're the first ranked team. I'm going to take North Texas as well. High flying offense. I think the spirit of Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to come out in them, and they're just going to go out there and stunner everybody, right? So, yeah, give me the mean green as well. So, getting into Saturday morning, you have BYU, number 11 BYU, taking on number 4 Texas Tech. This is an 11 o'clock game on ABC. This is played at AT&T Stadium, Jerry World here. This is a rematch. If you remember the previous game, it was 26-7. That could have been a lot worse. It could have been a 42-7 game, which Texas Tech had a few miscues, things of that nature. BYU has grown up a little, I think, over the past couple of games. Texas Tech is a 12.5 point favorite in this game. I think that's a little low in my opinion, though, if we're really going to look at this. So Texas Tech has the 4th overall offense in the country, averaging 489 yards per game. They've got the 3rd scoring offense at 43 points per game. On the defensive side, that's been the biggest step for Tech this season. We've talked about it a number of times. Tech has always been a great offensive program. The defense is where they've given up. You go back to the North Texas thing. Hey, we're not going to worry about playing defense because we're going to just outscore you, right? They've come in with the 6th best team or defense in the nation, giving up only 259 yards per game, and then the 3rd in scoring, giving up 11 points per game. Their rush is where they really do well, and that's what BYU wants to do, right? So Tech only gives up 68.9 yards per game, which is 1st in the nation there. They got the number 1 rush defense. On the other side of the field, BYU comes in with a 43rd ranked offense, averaging 414 yards per game. They are the 22nd in scoring, averaging 34 points per game. Rushing the ball, this is where they do really well, 194 yards per game, which is 23rd. Defensive side, they're 29th, 324 yards per game, 17 points per game, which is 14th in the nation. So you've got some pretty equal teams here if you really look at the rankings. I say that. I mean, BYU has stayed kind of in that middle of the pack. Tech has definitely stayed much closer to the top of the pack. They don't have anything ranked past 27th in the nation, so I just lied to y'all there. BYU is a little closer in some of those things on the rushing side and scoring, but that's the biggest thing. Tech comes in and they've been really good on 3rd down. Both of these teams, Tech ranks 11th, allowing opponents to convert 29% of the time, and then BYU ranks 16th, allowing opponents to score 32% of the time. It's going to be a good matchup. I don't think it's close still. I think it stays close for me early in the ball game, but I think Tech has just got too much offensive firepower, and when that defense really gets to flying around, they're going to make some havoc happen. So I see this being, like an 18-point game, in my opinion. So
All right. So this first time this showdown happened, I looked like a fool after my pick because I went with BYU.
Yep.
And to my sadness, BYU had opportunities. And again, I think points, the same key points of that first matchup are the same key points for BYU in this second matchup. I think there's some things that might go a little bit differently or have the potential to go differently. LJ Martin was his first game back off of a long slide on the injured reserve. So I think he's had opportunities to get his legs back underneath him. He is a very key component to what BYU likes to do. They are a heavy run team and do everything in the passing game off of the run. So to have him back in good health and in the offense back in a groove, this is not the same BYU team that Tech played the first time. To that point, the last time they played, a key point for me was that BYU had to start fast. And they failed to do that. They had opportunities to do that. They didn't take advantage of them. They got the ball into the red zone a couple of times to start the game and didn't get anything out of it. I don't see them making that same mistake. They have a little bit of extra juice behind them now that their coach decided, the super attractive Penn State came looking for me and I told them I'm not leaving. The boys have a little bit of energy behind them. A neutral site, you're not going to have all that Raider rash flying around everywhere. I don't think this one goes quite like that first matchup did. Now, I'm not gonna absolutely tout that BYU is going to come out with a massive win, but I do see this one coming down to a last second drive or maybe even just very, very close in the fourth quarter. And because I've stuck by them for the majority of the season, I'm going to take the BYU Cougars to win this one. They absolutely have to have this win. And for Tech, if they lose it, they lose it. It's not the end of the world for them. So I think BYU understands what's on the table. I think Bear Bachmeyer does enough. But I think the key factor is LJ Martin having a much different outcome this game than what he did in that first go round. So give me the Cougars, maybe by a field goal, maybe by a touchdown. I'm not sure on that point, but I know that the Cougars are going to come out on top.
Man, you're confident, but not super confident, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you asked me on Saturday, I'd probably change my mind.
I think BYU is a good team. I just think Tech's that much better, honestly. I think BYU can compete in a lot of different things, but I think Tech's that much better. So BYU loses, they're out. Doesn't matter if they stay at number 11 or what. They're going to be out no matter what. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with those two teams and where they go. Be interested to hear what the folks that listen think. Maybe we'll put up a little poll or something. But going to the 3:00 game, you have number 3 Georgia taking on number 9 Alabama. Georgia is a 2.5-point favorite here in this one. A lot of people know these teams, right? What they are, who they are. They played earlier in the year. Bama won 24-21. If you look back at that game and just some offensive statistics, gosh almighty, I can't. Georgia ran the ball for 227 yards, but Gunnar Stockton had a tough game and only had 130 yards passing. Now, it could be because of how well they ran the ball. Bama ran the ball for 117 yards and then passed the ball for 217 yards and had 2 touchdowns for Ty Simpson. So both of these teams come in with good offenses that are averaging over 400 yards a game. And then if you look at their scoring, they both are able to score the ball. Georgia is averaging 32.3 points, which is 35th best, and Alabama's averaging 33.3 points, which is 26th best. Yeah, looking at those two things, Georgia has the 13th ranked defense. Bama has the 12th ranked defense. All of these things are really similar in these two things. I think you're going to see a close score like you did before, that 24-21. Bama just always seems to get the better of Georgia, no matter what. Like in the majority of the games, I know there's been games that Georgia's won and Kirby Smart's been able to do it. But it just always seems when you get into these really tight games with these two teams, Bama just finds a way to best Georgia in whatever that crazy way that they are. They get a key force, stop on fourth down or a fumble recovery or whatever it is. So it's really hard for me at this point to pick here and to choose, which one's going to win. I'm kind of interested to see what you have to say before I make a decision.
So, if I'm looking at what these two teams have done lately and their rhythm that they've been in, Georgia's been playing much better since that game.
Yep.
And Alabama has really, they played better for a couple of weeks, but these last few weeks they've been a little off.
Yep.
And so if I'm looking at the full body of work, Georgia's put together a very nice run here. And Gunnar Stockton's been on. That game against Georgia Tech was a little bit off. But again, I don't treat those rivalry games as I would a regular season matchup. So I think I'm going to go with the Bulldogs in this one. I see Gunnar Stockton maybe making his final case for the Heisman Trophy and putting on a nice performance. I see that Georgia team as a whole. I mean, what they did to Texas was impressive. What they've done since losing to Alabama has been nothing short of impressive. So I think Georgia comes in and wins this one. And I think this one's going to be a classic Georgia and Alabama matchup, or it comes down to a last-second drive also. So I got the Bulldogs winning by 7. And it's going to, whether that's a 7 because they're the last ones to score, or that's 7 because they get a crucial stop at a pivotal point in the game. So I got the Bulldogs. As much as I like the Tide and Kalen DeBoer and his good luck in that black hoodie, they've seemed off, and I just don't see them overcoming Georgia with as much momentum as Georgia's coming into the game with. So give me the Dogs.
Yeah, I think that last week with Georgia and Georgia Tech, now that I really think about it, is kind of what brings me to have such hesitation in picking Georgia, right? They get into these rivalry games that it gets a little too tight. If Georgia Tech was a little more physical, they probably could have had a chance to really to win that game. They did have a chance to tie it there at the end. So just for overall Georgia versus Bama, I'm going to take, though I'd rather see Georgia win as a fan, I'm going to take Alabama here, and I think it's going to be one of those 3-point games here as well. I think they cover on that 3 points, but it's just going to be one of those weird things that they slow the game down really well. They play their style of ball, and Georgia just not able to have that high power offense that we're used to seeing. So, Texas was able to play close with Georgia for a little while, and then Georgia just put it on them and completely just blew them out of the building. I don't think that they're going to be able to do the same thing with this Alabama team, and it's going to be a point where it stays really close, and then Bam was able to get ahead, and they just don't relinquish that very small, margin right there. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. Going into a 7:00 game on Fox, you have the number 2 ranked Indiana Hoosiers taking on the number 1, the Ohio State University Buckeyes. Ohio State is a 4-point favorite here. This is definitely the game of the weekend here with these two, number 1 versus number 2. Everybody has been anticipating this game for a long time. Both are unranked at 12-0. They have high-power offenses that are coming in. I think the biggest difference here is that if you look at Ohio State's defense going against that Indiana offense, both are physical units, right? Indiana has done a really good job this year of being physical up front, controlling the line of scrimmage, being able to assert their dominance, even in close games that they've been in where, hey, it's been really close early on, and then they've just shown, hey, we're the more physical, tougher team, and we're going to just wear you down and do it. Looking at both sides, if you look at the ball, Indiana's bringing in the 5th-ranked offense in the nation. Ohio State has number 1. I know we went down the list of these things. I mean, they're first in overall defense. They're first in passing. They're 4th in rushing. They're first in scoring. You look at Indiana's, they're fifth in overall offense, 42nd in passing. They don't always have a great passing attack, but that's because they do lean on that run game. But we all know Fernando Mendoza can sling the ball if he needs to, right? He's proven it time and time again that he can do that. They have the ninth ranked rushing team, and they have the second ranked scoring. On the flip side of the ball, Indiana has the fourth overall defense, and then the second overall scoring defense there. And Ohio State comes in with the 24th overall offense and the 13th ranked scoring. So I don't think this is going to be a super high scoring game. They've got this at a 47.5 over under total here. So that still leads you to what you're looking 23-21 or 23-24 there, right? Something like that. So I don't know, man. I may take the over on that actually, but not by much. Maybe like a 28-24 game in that aspect, I think. I have gone back and forth so much on this of who I wanted to pick because I would much rather see Indiana win this because I think, Kurt Cinetti, that's just a great story they have. It's one of those teams that's not a traditional power ranking blue blood. If we were playing basketball, this would make way much more sense, but we're not. So, but I have a hard time picking against Ohio State too.
I think the thing that is most intriguing for me in this matchup is, the stats you provide about Ohio State's team as a whole, the offense being ranked number 1, the defense being ranked in the top 5. I think this is going to be the first time all season that they've ran into an offense that is actually efficient and high powered.
I don't disagree.
So I feel like it's going to be something that they're not used to seeing. They haven't ran into a team like this. The closest thing on their schedule that even gets, and it's not even that close, it would be Washington. And they kind of struggled with Washington.
You're going to upset some people now. There's going to be some week 1 fans there that are going to start.
Really, they scored 7 points. What are we saying? The kid couldn't fall out of a boat and hit water.
It did you.
So, but realistically, legitimately, they have not played a team that has an offensive attack like Michigan. That's a defensive team. That their offense is abysmal, and they messed around with them for a little bit. Indiana's offense is legitimate, so I think that's the key factor for me in this one. Ohio State's defense is very impressive. So but I don't know if they're actually impressive or they're impressive because of the teams that they've played. So this will be the first time we actually find out if Ohio State is as good as what they put on paper. And we've seen Indiana get tested. They played Oregon, which is an explosive attack and a decent defense and an overall good team. They messed around with Penn State and found a way to win that one. And everybody else, they've done the same thing Ohio State's done. So I am going to confidently pick Indiana in this matchup. And if Ohio State comes out and proves me wrong, I will be a full believer in the Buckeyes after that. And I probably picked them as the national champion favorite from that point forward. But I see this being their first test, and it's way too late in the season for a test of this magnitude, I think, for you to be that prepared for it. And I think they're going to get caught off guard with what Indiana brings to the table.
Yeah. I'm going to pick Indiana because I want to. Not because I necessarily believe. It's just because I want to. I want to pick Indiana. I want them to win. I want to see it. So that's why I'm going to pick them. So I need no other reason than that.
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah. And you know what? I would not be surprised one bit if Ohio State won. So it's not like I'm going to come in here after this happens and be like, oh, man, I didn't see this happen or I made this huge, big pick. I just I don't know. There's just something about this Indiana team that I think they have the capability to beat Ohio State, and we'll see. I think they're going to have some pep in their step. So Yeah.
This is by far the most intriguing championship game of the weekend, in my
Oh, yeah.
opinion.
Oh, 100%. Yep. We've seen the other two big ones so far, right? And
And it's the one with the least on the line, I think, for both of
oh,
these teams.
1000%. Like we talked about earlier, if either one of them loses and it's a close game, they're probably not falling out of the top two spots. I
No.
mean, the worst that happens here, if it's like a 27-24, last second field goal or even a 7 point game, the worst that happens here is they flip flop spots if Indiana wins, right? Or Indiana loses and they're right there and they stay there. They're not going to, I don't think either of these teams drop out of the top four, regardless of what it looks like, unless one of them loses by 21 plus. If one of them loses by 21 plus and they just get blown out, okay, yeah, maybe at that point you see them drop to a number 5 or 6 spot.
Right.
But they're not going to, I mean, they're locks for the playoffs. It doesn't matter what happens. So I foresee them staying in the top four no matter what. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But, anyways, so getting on into the last conference championship game here, you've got, I know we said this one's the most exciting, but man, what a matchup we have here on our hands in the ACC with Duke taking on number 19 Virginia. Neither of these two teams have played over the year. Actually, they did
They
play
did.
over the year. I'm sorry. Yeah, Virginia won 34-17, and that was in Durham. So, man, I know there's a lot of people hyping this one up here as, Duke has a really good chance here. Virginia's only a 3.5 point favorite. Duke is 7-5. I think Virginia is going to feel very disrespected here, and I have literally like 1% faith in this Virginia team. I don't know really what we, what they're going to bring to the table, but I'm going to go ahead and just pick the Cavaliers just because. They're playing a 7-5 team, so come on. I mean, they got to feel disrespected that people are only given 3.5 points.
I think the 3.5 is more than justified. There's probably too many points. To be completely honest, this Virginia team is. I don't know how they've only managed to lose 2 games all year. I don't know how we ended up in a situation where Virginia at 11-2 and Duke at 7-5 are playing for the ACC championship. I cannot explain that. It's an
SMU's
awful.
fault.
It really is.
Yep.
This is by far and away the worst matchup for a conference championship, probably in the history of doing these.
Yep.
So I am thoroughly disappointed. This is bad versus worse, and I'm just going to pick Duke just because, it would be funnier that way. Honestly, that's the only reason I'm going to pick them, because it would be funnier that way. And I have zero trust in this Virginia team.
Yeah.
Like, they ended up in the top 25 because they beat Florida State, who is now a laughingstock at this point. So, give me the Blue Devils, just because.
Yeah, Virginia's. Nah, I can't say they've handled business, but they've done their part. They're 10-2. That's all you can do. Duke's defense is terrible. They're ranked 112th overall, giving up 414 yards per game, 131st in passing, giving up 273, 54th in rushing, giving up 141, and then 97th in scoring, giving up 29. So looking at Virginia's, if you're just looking at stats, Virginia's 26th in the country, getting 433 yards per game, 53rd in passing, 34th in rushing, and then 27th in scoring an average of 33.2 points a game. So, yeah, it's a terrible game there, but I think Virginia's going to feel disrespected and make it happen. So, yep. So, anyways, that's it. Those are all the games right there. There's nothing else there. All that is now a lot of teams have, the hay in the barn, so to speak. There's a few teams out there that can make some cases to move themselves up potentially, and then you've really got some bubble teams that are sitting there thinking what's going to happen. Like we said, really, you're looking at number 11 and number 12, I guess 10, 11, 12, right? What's going to happen with Notre Dame with they staying idle? If they lose, it's nobody's doing but their own, right? If you're not competing in a conference championship game, this is one of those things for Notre Dame that it's like, I'm not going to sit here and bash them for not being in a conference championship game, but this is the position you put yourself in that where it's a negative for not being in a conference, right? So you can choose to be in a conference or be an independent. That's fine, whatever, but don't put yourself on the bubble and then be upset because you don't have another chance to go out there and prove it this weekend in a conference championship game, right? So that is what it is there. We'll see what happens, right?
Yep.
So, okay. So anything else you want to get into before we go over to Sunday?
No, I'm good on college ball.
Well, sweet. All right, let's get into the NFL. Like we talked about, we've got some divisional rivalries happening this week. But we'll start first with Thursday Night Football. You have the Dallas Cowboys traveling up to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. Before we get into this game, did you see the big stats that came out against the Dallas and Kansas City Chiefs on the viewership that happened?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, you saw it. All right, just for your knowledge, that it was the most watched regular season game that beat the previous one, which was the Cowboys versus Giants on the previous Thanksgiving, and that was 42 million. This year it was 57 million and some change. That is insane. That is a lot of folks watching a regular season game. So, just shows you that, you put the varsity right there, you're going to get good numbers. So, that just is what it is. But, yeah. You don't have anything to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you mix delusion with psychotics. I mean, you just get crazy viewership.
Yeah, whatever. Let's get into
Chiefs Kingdom. Hey, that's one thing I forgot to bring up with you because the Cowboys did win the game, but why did the Cowboys fans allow Chiefs Kingdom to take over in that national anthem like that?
They said home of the...
That sounded like Arrowhead.
It sounded home of the brave. I don't know what you're talking about. Because at the end of the game, there wasn't a lot going on. So
all I heard was Chiefs, Hagen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm concerned there.
I think the mind lets you hear what you want it to hear. So, anyways, getting into the game, this is a big game. It's basically a playoff game for both of these teams. More so, the Cowboys must win. They're sitting at 6-5-1. The Lions are sitting at 7-5. The Lions are trying to keep pace with the Packers and the Bears, which the Bears are the current number one overall seed, sitting at 9-3. They're trying to keep up with that. And if they were to fall and slip to 7-6, it'd be pretty. They're not out of it. They're still right there for the wild card ranking. But it'd be, you have to continue to win and go forward. Same with the Cowboys. They wouldn't necessarily be out of it, but they really need to win to go forward. If you look at the Rams' upcoming schedule after the Cowboys, they play the Rams, the Steelers, the Vikings, and the Bears. So you look at the Rams and then the Bears game right now. Those are two big games after this one that you got to look at. The Steelers they've been falling off, and then the Vikings have not been very good. But that's huge. On the other side, if you look at the Cowboys, they've got the Vikings after this, the Chargers, the Commanders, and the Giants. The Vikings, like I just said, have been falling off. The Chargers have proven that they're a good team, and then you can never count out the Commanders or the Giants because they're divisional opponents, right? You don't know what's going to happen in those games. So, what do you have to say?
I think there's just as much riding on the line for both of these teams. And I'm not going to say it's going to make or break the season, but I think if you look at the remaining schedule and you look at where they're at in their division chase, really, I feel like this has more on the line for the Lions almost than it does the Cowboys, because if you're the Cowboys, you lose to the Lions. The Eagles have really looked like a bad team as of late. So even if you lose this one, I feel like there's still opportunity to catch that ground up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Bears have looked like a great team, and the Packers are starting to figure it out. So if you let that gap get any bigger there, this might be it for the Lions.
Yeah.
So with that, man, this Lions team is obviously very different than what we've seen the past couple of years. And the Cowboys have a lot of momentum going into this one. Whereas the Lions, dropped that one on Thanksgiving. Close game. Is Amon-Ra playing in this one? Or is he still in?
He's a game time decision. That's a big thing for the Lions is how many people that they have that are hurt. I think you're even looking at Sewell and then Decker on the offensive line that potentially could not play this week.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. This is a tough one because if this was Ben Johnson still as the offensive coordinator, he would find a way to make the most of the holes in the Cowboys defense, and he would take advantage of it. And even if it was a close game, he would do enough to come away with it.
Yep.
I don't trust their play calling nearly as much as I have in the past. And defensively, they've also hit quite a drop off from where they were. Even last year, they were riddled with injuries and were still playing very competitive on the defensive side of the football. It has not been the same this year.
Yeah.
With all that being said, Monday Night Football, the thing they have going for them is it's at home and you have a lot to play for. And I mean, for them, I really feel like this is it. So I don't see that they have a choice. I'm going to go with the Lions, but I would not be surprised in the slightest. I'm not going to confidently say the Lions are going to win this one. I have zero confidence that my pick is a for sure thing. It's more like a wishful thinking type of thing. And if it happens, great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Your boys are coming in with quite a bit of momentum. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Everything that they needed, well, not everything, but the Eagles losing, the Eagles looking like a bad team, and y'all are starting to hit a stride here. If you can come away with this one, you have a whole bunch of momentum.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much covered all the ground at this point. So, I don't know. I mean, the Lions don't win this one. I think this is it for them. So, I want the Lions to win it just because the Lions are an exciting team.
Yeah, the Cowboys are running out of games here to catch the Eagles if that's what the game plan is going to be, or to catch anybody in the wild card race. So if they're going to have some teams slip up to help them out, they need to make sure that they're taking care of every opportunity that they can. This game scares me just because the Lions, they always want to come back after the Cowboys. They've always been really close matchups between these two teams here recently, especially. It's like they've developed a little rivalry of their own. I think that's kind of always been a thing maybe with Detroit and Dallas, especially if you go back to like the 90s and stuff when you had the Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders debate and things of that. And then you go into the early 2000s where both teams were terrible and who was worse. And then you have the Matthew Stafford versus Romo stuff, right, with controversial things in the playoffs there and whatnot. There's always been a little bit of heated between these two teams, and they've always had good games. So I don't know, man. I'm going to roll with the Cowboys by 10 here. I think they're going to win by 10.
Can you stop with that? It didn't work last week.
And Cowboys by 10. We're gonna do it, and hopefully we can make up some ground. Somebody else can stumble. We'll see. At this point, it turns into the Cowboys. Somebody compared the Longhorns to the Cowboys on me. You know what? The Cowboys may be the hottest team in the NFL right now, and maybe they win out, but there's still the opportunity or the chance that they don't make it to the playoffs, and there's nobody's fault but their own. And losses will catch up to you at some point. It seems like, right? Maybe they do enough to get into the playoffs, but if they don't, it's not going to be anybody's fault but their own. So that's all I can say.
Should have beat the Panthers. I mean, that's what it would boil down to.
Yeah, should have beat the Panthers. Yep. I mean, should have beat the Panthers, should have beat the Cardinals. That's what it is. So it is what it is, right? It sucks to see a season wasted like this if you can get this momentum going. But, oh well. That's it is what it is.
I'm not confident in this matchup. I don't love it for the Lions. Yeah. I don't love it for myself.
We'll see. I've got no other choice but to start Jared Goff at quarterback this weekend in fantasy for the playoffs. So I'm very very conflicted here. But Sunday, let's get into Sunday. Starting at the early games, you've got the Dolphins at the Jets. Both of these teams are coming off wins. The Dolphins have had some recent success here. They're getting to 5-7 when they were once were. We were talking about how long does McDaniels last, and your answer to that question was he has to win all of his games, right? And so far,
Yeah.
since we've had that conversation, he has won all of his games. The Lions have, or the Dolphins have been able to do it in a couple different ways. They whipped the Bills. They've won some close ones. They got Darren Waller back last week. He was a little bit of a help. Jaden Waddle's done well of being that number one receiver. The biggest thing's been Devon Achane. He's been running like a man possessed, right? That running game for that team has really been well. And if you look at it, the Dolphins are technically still alive in the hunt for an AFC playoff spot. The AFC is not as hot as having higher teams in that wild card spot with big wins. So they're still right there for it. The Jets, they've found a little bit of momentum here recently, and Aaron Glenn's got them playing inspired football. You still got Tyrod Taylor playing there. When these two teams get on the field, you never know what's going to happen because the Dolphins sometimes just forget how to play football in general. But I still think with that running attack with Devon Achane and how they play, I'm probably going to take the Dolphins in this one.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins actually have a legitimate chance at making a chase for this wild card. They need some help, obviously, but I got them beating the Jets for sure. The Jets, for everything they are, they looked better last week, but what is better whenever you're absolutely terrible? So give me the Dolphins in this one and continue that run. McDaniel hitting it on a high note to end this year.
Yeah, for sure. The Steelers are taking on the Ravens here. The Steelers have fallen off a little bit, and the Ravens haven't looked like, the team of the past. We know Lamar's coming back from some injury here. They've got the Ravens favored by 6. I don't know if Rodgers is going to be playing or not in this game yet. He got a little bit banged up last week, but I guess you said he did come back, right? So
Yeah.
this is one of those weird games. I'm going to take the Steelers in this one just because I feel like their defense is going to show up when it needs to and it matters the most. Lamar's been really weird and off here. I think TJ Watts could potentially have a big game, and I think I just trust the Steelers defense more than I do the Ravens defense and then their offense to really get things actually going. So
I don't know that I want to pick a winner in this one. I want to call it a tie.
well, the Steelers have actually been able to score some points at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
They scored 28 last week, so
the problem I see with no. They scored 7 last week.
maybe it was the week before. I apologize. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem I see is that the Bills had their way in the run game with the Steelers defense last week with some very basic schemes. And the Bills aren't a super consistent offense this year either. So I am not confident in the Steelers defense. I'm not confident in the Ravens defense. I'm not confident in either one of these teams. I almost want it to be a tie so that the Bengals can win again and all of a sudden be in that same conversation. But I'm going to go in the same direction you're going. I want it to happen for Aaron Rodgers. So this is a pretty important game for these two teams. Give me the Steelers, just out of pure want more than anything.
There you go. The Saints are traveling to Tampa to take on the Bucks. The Bucks are, what is that, 8.5-point favorites here? Yeah,
Yep.
I just don't see much in the Saints. So the Bucks are banked up, but I think Mayfield's going to will them to victory here. So
Yeah, unless Kyle Trask is going to start at quarterback, and no, the Bucks are going to win. So
easy there. The Colts are traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. They've got Indy -1.5 here. This is one of those games that the Jags just seem like they're going to play weird. The Colts played okay. I say okay. I don't think it was okay last week. They lost to the Texans 20-16. That Texans defense is really good. It'd be interesting to see if Daniel Jones, with that fibia injury, if he can get things going again, if Jonathan Taylor can run the ball. I don't trust Jacksonville very much, so I'm going to take the Colts in this one. But Yeah.
Yeah, this one is another one that's really important at a pivotal point in the season for these two teams. I mean, Jacksonville has the lead in the division right now. The Texans are suddenly getting very hot. The Colts are on a little bit of a slide. I like the Colts in this one also, but I'm not super confident in that. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to a field goal, but give me the Colts.
Yep, 100%. Titans are taking on the Browns in Cleveland. They've got Cleveland minus 4.5. I'm going to take the Browns just because of the defense.
Yeah, the Browns have the probably the most electric player in football playing quarterback for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if Myles Garrett has 8 sacks in this game alone. So give me the Browns.
I'm not even going to acknowledge your first part of that, so whatever. The Commanders are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to make his way back, but I think what we saw on Monday with Marcus Mariota. I have more faith in him than I do JJ McCarthy. So give me the Commanders in it.
Is it going to be McCarthy or Max Brosmer again? Because
Oh, it
I
may
saw
be
him do
Brosman,
some.
whoever it was. Either two of them, I still take the Commanders.
Man, the Vikings, what a colossal mistake in letting Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones walk out of your building.
Yep.
Give me the Commanders because if it's Max Brosmer again, that is, boy, it's exciting for the other team.
Yeah, they got to figure out how to get Justin Jefferson the ball. But
Put him at
the
quarterback. I've seen enough.
yeah. The Seahawks are going to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. You got the Seahawks -7 here. Give me the Seahawks. I think their defense will pounce on some of those Kirk Cousins mistakes. Unfortunately, they don't get Bijan the ball consistently, and the offense is too high powered. So, yep.
Yeah, I agree. This Seahawks defense at this point, it seems like they're scoring more than the offense is, and that's a great sign for your defense. Not a great sign for your offense, but it's not going to matter. Seahawks roll.
Yep. The Bengals are taking on the Bills in Buffalo. You've got Buffalo -5.5 here. Give me Joe Burrow and the boys. I just think that they're going to come out and upset them, and they're going to be ready to go. They get T. Higgins back this week, it looks like. So, yeah, I think we'll be fired up.
I am, again, I'm going in the same direction you are. Joe Burrow, for whatever reason, I mentioned it last week, but that defense, they looked entirely different from what they've looked like all season just with Joe Burrow being back. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it looks like it's going in the right direction. So give me the Bengals.
Yep, 100%. Uh, I think this one's America's Game of the Week. You've got the Bears traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. You've got Green Bay -6.5 here. I have no idea who to pick here. I trust neither of these teams. Give me the Bears because DeAndre Swift has been running the ball pretty well. I think they can get a little bit of play action going there. It's just the Jordan Love thing again that I just don't trust him. So, yep.
I am going to go with the Packers in this one. Micah Parsons finally looks like he's coming alive, and maybe the Packers are getting their money's worth out of him. I think if he can get after Caleb Williams, it'll put him in put him into a downward spiral for this game, give him some fits. So I'm gonna go with the Pack.
Fair enough. The Rams are taking on the Cardinals in Arizona. Got the Rams -7.5 here. I think they're going to come out easy pick. It's going to be the Rams. I think they're going to come out after they got embarrassed and lost to Carolina last week. They're just gonna. I think they're going to scorch them. So
Yeah, I think the Rams come back, bounce back, and take care of business. Jacoby Brissett probably throws for, I don't know, 400 yards after 67 attempts. So
oh yeah.
give me the Rams, though.
Yeah. And then the last game of the day, you have the Texans traveling to Kansas City for Sunday Night Football. They've got Kansas City -3.5 here. I've been really tough back and forth on this. I'm really high on that Texans defense right now. It's hard to count out Mahomes at any point, especially at home, Sunday Night Football. But I'm going to roll with the Texans just because I feel like they can get pressure on Mahomes. If you can get that pressure on Mahomes, they have really good cornerbacks as well. They play really good all the way around. Um, the biggest question is, can their offense score points? So
Yep.
I'm going to roll with the Texans here still, but I mean, it would be no surprise if the Chiefs won because C.J. Stroud cannot get that offense going.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say that the Chiefs are going to win this one because they couldn't take advantage of a defense that's not as good as the Texans' defense. You'd be lying to yourself if you're telling me the Cowboys' defense is equivalent to the Texans. This
Nope.
is a legitimate defense that the Texans have. That's the bright spot of their team. So they have been on quite the tear. And if the Chiefs haven't figured out how to protect Patrick Mahomes in the last 7 days, I don't see this going very well for him. I think this might be the beginning of the end of the great dynasty that this has been. I think the Texans kind of end their playoff hopes. So give me the Texans in this one.
Yep, for sure. Well, that's all for Sunday. We'll talk about the Monday night game between the Eagles and Chargers next episode when we get through with the reactions. We'll preview that one a little bit and then give our picks there. So that's it for Sunday. That's it for Saturday. There is no real other big news that's going on here, unless you want to talk about the Spurs. They're 6-2 in their last couple games, so they're playing pretty well. Yeah,
That means nothing to me right now.
yeah, yeah. Basketball doesn't start till after Christmas, so
Basketball don't start till April.
till April. Man, we're already we'll be into baseball by then. What are you talking about?
Oh my
Getting ready
gosh.
for spring training, man. We'll be full swing in that at that point. But no, still a lot of other things going on around the sports world. So there's some big things to keep everybody entertained going. But got to cherish these last couple weeks, couple months of football that we got because they're going to come and go pretty quick. So you got anything you want to say to everybody before we sign off here?
No, I'm excited about this weekend. Big
Yep.
time matchups.
It's going to be big, when we come back Sunday and talk about it and then potentially talk what this looks like afterwards. And then when we come back this time next week, it's going to be set and it's going to be ready to roll. And there's going to be a lot of controversy. So it'll be fun to see. I could easily make some rage clips and put them out on social media just to make it happen because it gets wild out there. But we try to keep it as real as possible. So, yeah, for sure.
Listen, if you find yourself trying to defend Florida's schedule as your reason for getting in, that's the end of your argument right there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done with it.
Yeah,
At that point.
it's been tough out there, guys. So, anyways, man, we greatly appreciate it. We had fun. This was a good one. We appreciate you, the listeners, whatever capacity that is that you listen, whether it's just whether it's a minute, 5 minutes, or the whole thing. Remember that to go follow us on social media. We're Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff. We put out reels all the time, shorts. And just in case you cannot catch the full episode or you don't want to catch the whole episode, there'll be, the most interesting topics there. And then, we'll come back and we'll react to this on Sunday, put it out on Monday, and we'll go from there. So, be fun. So, anyways, if you ain't got nothing to me there, I've got nothing. Guys, thank you. This has been another episode. Remember, Jesus loves you, and we'll see you next time. Peace.